I am buying into it, but at a more measured pace than the conspiracy theorists. I think decentralization of currency is a trend, not a fad. And I think Bitcoin's just part of that. I think that people are beginning to figure out different ways of decentralizing from these crazy banks constantly printing money. But the speed at which we are decentralizing, the speed at which, you look at the total net worth of Bitcoin and you look at the total net worth of all assets in the world, we are decades away from a Bitcoin revolution where we get to the point where the elites have to actually start buying a very large amount of Bitcoin. The elites are doing what they do, which is we'll hold 1% of Bitcoin. So if something goes bad, we can always say we were the pioneers. We already had 1% of our assets in Bitcoin. So they're giving it lip service. And I don't think they need to do much more at this point in time. I do think that we will see decentralization. I also want to point out that things move much slower than we think. Remember, there's about 1,000 books on Amazon predicting the demise of Japan since 1987. So in 1989 was the last time that the Japanese economy grew really on a consistent basis. Since then, up and down, mostly down, because their population started to drop. So as early as 1987, people are saying gloom and doom things about the Japanese economy. Now, technically, you could say these people were right. The Japanese economy is about half the size of what it was, in 1989. So it's shrunk, but it didn't crash at any point. There has not been a significant crash in the Japanese economy in the last 21 years of shrinkage. And you could say, well, the Japanese are very disciplined, they pulled it off. And the answer is no. If you kind of look at what they've done over the last 10, 15 years, it doesn't look disciplined at all to me. It simply points out that large economies have inertia, and that inertia is very, very, very large. And so for us to get to the point where our world economy becomes destabilized because we're overprinting takes significantly long than most people think. I still think we have another 10 years of basically this scraping along the bottom business before a major domino falls. And when I say a major domino falls, I mean Italy. I mean, because Greece obviously went bankrupt, but it was too small. Greece was less than 1% of the world economy, right? So, it was like one-fifth of 1%, not big enough to cause a major crisis, and almost did, because the European Union went into recession because of Greece. But what if Italy defaults, right? Italy is 1.5% of the world economy. So if that happens, then the banks will freeze up again, because everyone that's holding some sort of Italian bonds, you get a contagion and it spreads across the world. And before you know it, 3 days later, no bank is willing to transact money, right? So that's likely to happen, right? And I'm betting on Japan and Italy being the two potential elements that basically make this go haywire. But you know what I'm also betting on? I'm betting on the Fed holding a meeting in Switzerland, calling every single country in and saying, let's just fix this. And they'll find some way to rob us, and they'll find some way to fix it. The rich will become richer at that point in time, and we'll have a crazy 12 months. So I think that the financial elites have figured out that you can actually fix any of these problems by calling everybody together and agreeing on a bunch of things that 100 years ago we would have considered to be treason, but now the federal banks are doing it, so it's okay. So I think that this goes longer than you think, and when you do get to an end with it, all that happens is you get a year of complete chaos followed by a return to normalcy, because they'll retweak the system, right? They did that in Greece. Did you know that they went into Greek banks and just simply took 30% of people's deposits and said, this is our money? And people are like, oh, the Greeks are going to just slaughter all of their politicians. They're going to be out in the street by the millions. They're going to bring their pitchforks and they're going to kill them all. Not one Greek politician was even beaten up. The Greeks simply accepted the fact that the government went to their bank accounts, took their money, and kept it, and never returned it, right? I mean, so we think that these things will happen, right? I mean, Trump was thinking that 1 million people are going to show up. Well, thousands did, but he needed 1 million people if he wanted a true revolution. So, what's very likely is that we're not going to have a financial revolution. We're going to have a financial scam where at some point the elites will simply take 70% of our debt and say, well, it's gone. And I think they can pull it off. I think they're getting better at realizing that the things that we thought we couldn't do, we can do. I mean, you look at the Fed today compared to the Fed in 2007, this almost seems like they're running a parallel financial government because they do shit without even asking Congress, right? They release $1 trillion into the market and inform Congress after 10 days. So I think we have a fourth branch of government, the most powerful, the Federal Reserve. And I think that's what's helping people in real estate, because as you know, that every time the Fed puts $1 trillion into the US economy, the real estate goes up because it's a fixed asset. We can't make any more real estate, right? How can you simply flood the market with 1 trillion homes the next day by clicking a computer button?